into Champion Select, I want to bring up the table once again, and we're going to be talking about it a lot over the next couple of weeks. That last result actually plays very much into Paris Saint-Germain's hands, because it now means if they win both of their games, they're starting to surpass other people in points, rather than just equalizing and tying up with other people.
And it also helps Kinguin here as well, because if either of these teams gets a 2-0 now, everybody around them just only got 1 point from it. So very interesting goings-on in the table. So PSG take the Shen away, take the Jace away, focusing on that top lane potentially, trying to give White Knight a more comfortable matchup.
And White Knight has never subbed in for a top lane position before. I think that's important to say. This will be his third different position that he has played competitively. And lots of people say, you know, having a sub who can play any role is good. But when you bring him in your first week of having him on your roster, he needs to impact. And against someone like Ice Beasto, he's going to have a tough matchup.
Look at the focus from PSG on top lane. Camille goes out as well. So what do we got? LeBlanc. Pretty much, maybe Blanc takes LeBlanc for himself. No, that's not the case. With Varus banned, they take the Jhin as first pick. So Kinguin, if they really want that mid lane pick, can look to go for it here. Sebex, in days gone by, has played a ton of LeBlanc. We've seen him in Challenger Series play that before.
We have seen LeBlanc be countered, though, by Schalke 04. I believe it was in week 1, and that was against Kinguin. So when they played that LeBlanc, the Kassadin worked out very well into it. It's going to be the Maokai top alongside that Graves jungle for Tabasco, allowing him some early game aggression.
That's a very early Maokai pickup, but with that much presence on top lane, that's why Maokai comes out. Basically taking away a lot of the tank matchups with the Shen not being available. We've got the Camille, the Jace, the carry matchups that aren't Rumble taken away from them too. And like the Graves, farm-based jungler. We've seen what Graves can do. You put him in front of a turret, but it's on Tabasco now. He's going to have a little reduced impact earlier on in the game.
That he is. Kairi now has the Kha'Zix as well, so he'll be looking to try and do quite a lot. I've actually got a note in my notes here that says, I want to see more from Kairi in the early game, so I'm quite happy that he's picked up the Kha'Zix here. He's been playing a lot more Rek'Sai, which is much more of a utility jungler. I like these aggressive junglers, especially with the priority that's put on watching out the enemy jungler and spotting them out as they play their early game through.
Now, as we have a support lock-in come through on the Lulu, if Kinguin go LeBlanc here, they can then look to ban out. It's either LeBlanc or they have to go AD carries is another option. They can look to ban out a lot in phase 2, then get the first pick on whatever's the strongest that remains, or see what falls as a blind pickable mid laner, or, you know, as we come out of phase 1. There's a lot still available with that LeBlanc still being up. It's
going to be the Rise instead here for Sebex. We have seen quite a lot of different champions from Blanc in that mid lane. He's played Talia. He's got a lot of ability to work around his team and play exactly what's needed. The LeBlanc ban does come out from Kinguin.
I don't like the pacing of this draft anymore from Kinguin, in the sense that you're playing up against PSG, who typically have a good early game. You've got a mostly losing top laner who basically doesn't win most matchups. You've got a patiently waiting and farming jungler, a patient mid laner who needs time to play. You've lost out on the AD carry trade. Now you don't get a Sivir to go alongside it. Where is your early game? It's going to have to come from something like a Caitlyn that's going to come out for Woolite. We've seen Woolite pick up Tristana before as well in days gone by. I'm afraid for Kinguin if they fall behind here.
I think as well, like, because you're banning out mid lane, the top lane matchup for White Knight is a lot easier for him to pick. It's going to be an Ashe ban as well from PSG, so now Woolite will probably go towards that Caitlyn, as you said. Doesn't need to pick it up first rotation, can probably get it as that last pick if they want to prioritize anything else here.
But even then, you only have Caitlyn for that very early laning phase, and then suddenly the damage goes down.
Caitlyn Karma, perhaps, just to try and push the lane in consistently?
Yeah. I mean, yes, you could also go Nami if you want lane presence, and that's where they're going on this. If this isn't a Caitlyn last pick from Kinguin, I would be incredibly surprised.
Ezreal is the other option, but doesn't really fit into that pushing idea that you
especially with the Nami, you're basically picking a losing lane rather than a winning lane at that point. And the only other option would be if they wanted Tristana. And we've got a tank buster out of the mid lane. With a Rise on the opposite side, you have a little bit of freedom to pick up whatever you want. That's an Azir. We don't see too many. We've seen a couple in the last few weeks.
I don't think we've seen any in Challenger Series yet, if I recall correctly. Blanca's going to bring out the Azir. Showed he's got a propensity to play any mid laner, in all honesty, and not too worried about his mechanics in the lane. His ability to stay safe later game, perhaps helped slightly by this Azir, because he can always do that Shurima shuffle to get himself away.
Kind of a long-range comp at least some aspects here for PSG. It doesn't actually mesh too well when you look at it. Like Kha'Zix jumps in, gets the Lulu ultimate. You've got the Jhin from behind, the Azir out in the backline as well. Doesn't really scream like they can push Kinguin in.
So why do you think PSG have gone for this composition if you don't think it's working out to what they would have wanted originally?
Well, the problem is, I don't think it doesn't work out to what they wanted originally. I think they probably got a lot of their picks that they were looking for, but the top lane matchup of going Nautilus meant they had to get more damage from elsewhere, like in the mid lane, where you have to be able to chunk through a Maokai. Just interesting pacing. I'm not super keen on both drafts, if I'm being honest. It's a very rare time that this happens, but
it does happen from time to time,
like,
though.
Kinguin's has a lot easier setup. Yeah. You can see what it wants to do, but I think it could have been punished hard by PSG. They want to teamfight later on. You have fair damage coming from the Caitlyn, from the Graves, from the Ryze. You have solid bases to go from. Like, for the side of PSG, you can't 1-3-1 because you've got Nazir. You've got this weird mix where if Nautilus can go down, lock somebody down, Kha'Zix comes in, Jhin comes in with the damage, you can actually get a fight started. But I don't see PSG doing too much without getting a kill or two and then getting a tower. There's no 5v5 big team fight set up for them. There's no 1-3-1 split push. This is kind of catch and punish.
But their catch doesn't seem incredibly good either.
Like, that's the
you
problem.
kind of got the Azir and the Nautilus there who can do a little bit, and then the Kha'Zix maybe early game if you can start to catch out that Graves and take him out in those 1-for-1 trades. But usually Graves is okay into that matchup as well because of the end of the line. When you're fighting in the jungle, end of the line is so much more powerful. But we are about to get onto Summoner's Rift. If you think Paris Saint-Germain will take only their second win of the European Challenger Series, tweet out with us with hashtag PSG win. If you think Kinguin are going to take it, hashtag KGN win. We're on to the Summoner's Rift. Both these teams need a win today.
Well, Ice Beasto is playing goalkeeper Maokai. We'll see if he can stop this football team on the other side of the Rift, putting one in the back of the net in game one. Trying to just RP the best as he can. It's a very small goal, actually, to score in.
I don't know, man.
We'll see whether White Knight can kind of use the anchor. And
I think the ball is probably bigger than the goal. That's golf. That's not football. So a mixture of sports in the top lane for us here. Golfer Nautilus has to be a skin at some point. Can you please suggest that to the team? Golf is now an Olympic sport as well, so in an Olympic year, can put that on. But yes, early game jungle priority is what we tend to see from teams these games. And it's interesting that you say PSG haven't really set up this composition as well as we would have liked, because although their late game has been weak, their mid game hasn't been incredible, their early game tends to have been strong, and their draft has been pretty consistently good across the last few weeks. So it's strange to see them starting to falter on something we would have praised them for in weeks gone by.
And I kind of want to maybe clarify some of the discussion on draft.
I think that's important because it was a confusing discussion. Everything was all over the place.
Yeah, and that's the problem with PSG is it is a little all over the place. I think that they have picks that can work, but certainly when you look at the meta, this isn't 5 champions that are exceptionally strong. I mean, yes, Kha'Zix, yes, Jhin, but then the Azir comes out for Blanc, and I really have to see whether he can punish Sebex. Try and shove him in, get damage down, and then look to make plays.
Is that what you're expecting in this lane? Is it about the Azir pushing that lane in and then roaming and trying to get ganks off in the rest of the map? Is he kind of playing the sort of LeBlanc idea where you just push the lane in and then go somewhere else?
Well, early on he can shove and get a good amount of damage down. The problem is it doesn't really sustain through, and Ryze has decent wave clear afterwards. So that is the very early laning phase for Blanc. You can see he's already at level 2 here, looking to push through. Has to be careful because Tabasco is around the mid lane. Tabasco is actually not just around the mid lane. He's potentially looking for a red buff steal, trying to get some of that trades. In fact, it's a mid lane gank very early on from Tabasco.
Blanc has got cleanse. The slow comes out. There is the flash away straight away, end of the line down. And Blanc will get himself out, but now lower mobility because he has to burn that summoner. And Kairi did a full jungle clear topside, which means that he wasn't able to counter gank or get anything out of that.
Yeah, that's a good play early on to get down into mid lane, get that flash from Blanc. I'm looking at bot lane at the same time. You can see Delord tries to trade. It's been very aggressive.
Ooh, that was close as well. A whisper from that deadly flourish. And now, Pilot actually tends to have quite strong lanes alongside Spartel. He has the highest CS difference of any AD carry in the league at 15 minutes. Tends to win out his lane. It's one of the stronger lanes that we've seen from Paris Saint-Germain, whereas Woolite and D-Lord tend to struggle a little bit, in all honesty, below average across the board.
This lane matchup, though, should be in favor of Caitlyn Nami. Very difficult to out-trade them. Once you have that Tidecaller's Blessing come through on Caitlyn, you just get extra damage. If you can land a headshot, just kind of takes 300 health off. No real way of surviving through that. And, of course, the sustain that Delord has, you saw just how much health you got back there. So, as good as Pilot's laning phase has been, the matchup in this game is going against him.
Have to see if he can perhaps keep even then and stop that losing matchup from causing him too much harm later on. Tabasco once again stepping forward, getting some vision down here. Not going to pop the Scryer's Bloom and give away his position because he wants a gank on Blanc, who still does not have that flash. Yeah,
but he will, however, have these shifting sands to get away if he feels like he's in trouble. There it does, comes through, gets the cleanse though.
Yeah, Sebek's using Ghost to get the cleanse. Perhaps Blanc just being respectful there of the possibility Tabasco was around the corner.
And he's playing around top side here. Blanc had the ward, so they would have been able to spot Tabasco if it had come top side. Knows that as long as he hugs that wall, he can use that shifting sands very effectively.
I have to admit, I really like Azir's ability names. I think that's some of the best named abilities in the game. Ice Beast still getting traded in here by White Knight. Ooh, not going to get taken out, but interesting matchup here, because usually you'd expect it just to be a tank into a tank. White Knight's just pushing behind the lane here, but Ice Beasto's really getting shoved out of this one.
Yeah, typically Nautilus is able to push thanks to Riptide. Very effectively pushes through the minions. Normally, Maokai can sustain through a lot of the damage, but Ice Beasto looks like he took a poor trade after not having any corrupting potion stacks left, and White Knight used his to heal himself back up. Tabasco's around, but I believe they just spotted him. A ping went down onto those Krugs. A lot of that's to do with the wards where they've caught out vision on Tabasco recently. Again, they know he can only really be topside in Krugs if he is farming.
With the rise of aggressive junglers, we're seeing so much more impetus put on tracking your enemy jungler, knowing exactly where they're going to be. It's always been important, of course, but when it used to be junglers would farm up to the later game and then come in for the ganks, didn't matter as much. Now that junglers give a huge damage burst and can really change a fight in a matter of seconds, we see so much more about getting vision deep into the enemy jungle. D-Lord caught out, Pilot flashes in, into the bubble, exhaust down, Woolite gets a headshot and pushes Pilot back.
Good trade in response there, didn't even get the flash out of D-Lord, and Pilot was the one that went aggressively there. I want to kind of follow on from what you were talking about of tracking junglers and how that affects the pace of the game. Teams have very, recently and over the last year or so started to figure out that there are only a set number of plays that can be made at any one time. Whether they're farming or whether they're ganking, there's...
either Crux or Razorbeaks trying to take down Kha'Zix.
There's only a set number of plays, and if you have a third to two-thirds of the map covered in vision, then the number of plays that you can actually be making is severely reduced. So that's why when they spot Tabasco, PSG can start looking to make a play bot side, because they know there's no way of punishing them. Ryze can't get there. You don't have any option of Graves getting there early either, and PSG had the option to make it. Didn't actually get the play to work out for them. Pilot flashes forward, couldn't get anything done.
Splashed into an Aqua Prism as well, so great reaction from D-Lord. Did get the heal and the exhaust now, but they're much shorter cooldown than the flash, so Pilot now needs to be a little bit cautious. Sprattle coming up to clear out a little bit of vision in the river as well.
Yeah, I would rather trade heal and flash away and get the flash from Jhin. Sorry, heal and exhaust away and get flash from Jhin. Because theoretically, you can punish that with the Graves. Unfortunately, Ice Beasto has used his teleports. There's no TP advantage for Kinguin. Otherwise, that would have been easy to make a play. Like, look how far Jhin and Lulu are pushed up in this lane. If there was a ward next to them, because they have not control warded that bush, if there was a ward in this bot lane, easy punish on a flashless Jhin would be able to get a kill.
Speaking of punish, Kaire is looking towards this red buff, has been pinged out. They know the Razorbeak's dead. Tabasco's back here. Just trying to keep a track of the jungler. I think they warded over as well, so they'll know Tabasco's there. And Kaire, happy enough that he is aware of his enemy number, will now just give this blue across towards Blanc.
Yep, Blanc's going to go over get it. And Kinguin in the bot lane, still just sustaining through. Have a good lead. Comfortable back timing for Woolite. Got him the BF sword. Got themselves a control ward as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see Woolite place that in their lane brush just to defend against any type of teleport play, but they know TP isn't available. And as we say that, actually, a control ward did just get placed in that lane brush. Kinguin may be looking to make a play on top side here, but both junglers are here. Kyrie's there too. Looking to equalize the numbers.
It's a little bit tricky to make a play onto a Nautilus as well, although Tabasco is 6 and Kyrie is only level 5. Getting close, there's the 6. Levels up the Void Assault, gets those claws ready to sink them deep into the bark of this tree. White Knight will just push it up. Staggering blow, not going to be able to harass Ice Beasto down too low.
Much slower paced game than Fnatic Academy versus Misfits to start this one off.
I think that's important as well because PSG have been the kings of the early game. That's the one real part of their game that we have praised and said, yeah, they're doing this really well. They know exactly how they're playing the early game. They take advantages here. A little bit of CS on the jungle, a little bit in the top lane, a tiny bit in the mid lane, but they're behind in bot. It's really PSG haven't made the plays we'd expect them to do in early game.
And a lot of people will look at it and say, hey, that's probably a meta thing, right? Because they're playing with an Azir. They have a Jhin that didn't pick up Serrated Dirk to begin this game. Like, they don't actually have a lot of lanes that have the advantage this early on. Or at least, like, not critical advantage. They did that with Sivir, Ryze, Maokai as a composition against Schalke and looked really good, like, in the early game. So this isn't a team that have necessarily needed early game compositions to have a strong early game. But they are fairly slow on this one. 400 gold is the lead, just from a few CS advantages around the map.
But it's minuscule at best for these teams. No real chip damage on any towers either, which means we're probably in for a little bit of a longer game here. But both sides have players that will scale up pretty well with that longer game. Caitlyn, we always talk about 4 items on Caitlyn, does a huge amount of work. Ryze there as well for Sebex. Blank has the Azir. Pilot as well on the Jhin, really likes to have those items under his belt. So both of these teams will be happy getting to that 25, 35 minute mark.
It's a really interesting focus from Woolite on this Caitlyn. When Caitlyn was fully meta, you used to max trap first. But because tower pushing has become such an important part of the game, is maxing Q. Ooh,
flash away. Oh, Concrete Sands goes out the wrong way. Emperor's Divide not going to connect onto Sebex. Teleport in here by Ice Beasto and Kinguin. Look to pull the trigger on this mid lane push. They know Blank hasn't got flash or cleanse, and Kyrie can't really defend either. Sputtle is here. They're just going to try and push it back. White Knight onto Ice Beasto. Aquaprism doesn't connect. This is just PSG trying to force Kinguin away from their mid lane tower.
Yeah, nothing's actually going to happen realistically in this mid lane. They got double summoners from Azir. Flash was used from Sebex to avoid the gank, and teleport out from Ice Beasto. So a lot committed with no real gain for either team. Woolite just really pushing in the bottom lane.
The only gain you could say is Ice Beasto doesn't have that TP. Woolite has to flash away, but the cursor call comes down, and Woolite has been caught out here. D-Lord tries to heal him up. The final shot does not connect as D-Lord got in the place.
Yeah, flashes in front of him just to save his life. Woolite nearly punished for pushing out heavily in the bot lane, but was enough from that Nami being there to keep him alive. We go back to the tanks in the top lane.
Still 400 gold as well. For a second it was about 200, now it's still at that 400 mark. PSG will be... I want to just come back to this early game versus mid game versus late game point, because there's been a lot of talk this week, and I think Weldon from G2 released a video saying, as a team, you have limited time to practice, and you have to decide what you're going to practice on. So he says G2 recently been practicing a lot on their late game decision making, because the early game, you always get to 30 minutes in a game, or you should if you're a strong enough team. And PSG might say, look, our early game's fine. Let's practice our late game for an entire week. And now we see perhaps the early game's lost a little bit of its impetus, lost a bit of its flair, of its pizzazz. But it could be that they're happy enough with their late game, and they're just waiting it out.
That's fair. What I would say to that is, like, Challenger has a very specific set of, like, kind of like practice differences to LCS. There are almost no Challenger teams that do everything right between minute 1 and 30. And, like, I think if you were a team that went, hey, we're just going to focus on late game, you're probably going to lose a bunch of games before then.
Emperor's Divide comes out, Sebex caught out, and there's the kill for Blanc. Snipes him away.
Finally, we see this type of play out of PSG where they're going for that one pick-off into now a tower push. This is what we were talking about. They don't have a team fight comp so much. They don't have any kind of sieging or 1-3-1 setup, but they can pick someone off and they can punish them when they're out of position, and that was exactly what they were trying to do. Kinguin now trying to do similar thing on the bottom, but they don't really have enough damage up front.
Pilot had to use the heal to get away, but there's a teleport coming in behind them now, and D-Lord and Woolite caught out, no summoners, knocked up. Woolite the target, the curtain call comes down, D-Lord tags up a couple, and there is the double in the bot lane. PSG react and take out the kills.
Finally, PSG use their teleport advantage. As soon as they make one play, a second one comes through right after. It's the teleport into the bot lane from the Nautilus, lands a beautiful depth charge onto two autos. You know, apply the staggering blows onto both members, and between Pilot and White Knight, they get a double kill in the bot lane. One of them went over to Sprattle, and this is how you started this off. Kinguin were chasing onto Pilot. You're a Nami, you're a Caitlyn. That's not going to happen. They don't respect the minion wave behind them. And watch this out of White Knight. Double knockup, one auto. Second auto comes through onto D-Lord. I actually didn't auto him. He was just auto attacking Woolite. I figured he would have like spread the staggering blows around. Didn't
really need to do it. Even with the tidal wave coming out, they're still able to get the curtain call shots raining down. And actually, all of that play comes back to when Kinguin decided to teleport in for that mid lane tower, because Icebeasto didn't have teleport to react. It made it a very safe play for PSG, and now they rotate their bot lane up top and they can look for their second tower. It's almost like PSG were listening to the stream. Obviously they're not, but we were saying early game's been a little bit weak. What are you doing, PSG? Waiting for the late game. 13 minutes in, they're 3,000 gold ahead, and they have that first tower.
On the plus side, we run in a fair delay.
Yeah, we have a big enough delay that it doesn't really matter.
That would have happened way, way, way before that, so nothing to worry about on that front. But now they want to go in. White Knight does get knocked up.
Yeah, Kyrie gets exhausted as well. We'll be able to get out, but that's a summoner burnt. And it's only just come back off cooldown as well.
And teleport advantage is one of those concepts that this is what I mean about challenger teams, is TP advantage is a concept top laners and teams should be very aware of, because it's been this way for nearly 3 years. If you don't have teleport and the enemy team does, don't make a play on the other side of the map. That's how that goes, time and time again. PSG, however, on the back foot of that tower push, it wasn't the first towers going down. 1-for-1 trade overall.
Blank now has that Nash's Tooth in the mid lane as well. Rod of Age is stacking up for Sebex. It's not lane. It's been relatively quiet apart from that kill that Blank got earlier on. Surprisingly so. PSG looking to try and steal away this Mountain Drake. Casing the hole will come down. Woolite's quite low on mana here. Tabasco's still there, and here comes Blank as well. They might look for this. Aqua Prism doesn't connect. 7,000 HP. The curtain call opens up. Tabasco there, and the dragon will go down. Mountain Drake used. There's the TP in as well. Tidal Wave knocks them back. But once again, the TP comes down. And Kinguin don't get too much out of that.
No, they don't get a whole lot from it. Now it's going to be in about a minute's time. TP advantage once again for PSG. Again, we see the impact of the Nami into the Jhin. You cancel the curtain call, and now because of it, PSG have backed away through that mid lane, and they're looking for the tower. Won't get it because the minions died fast enough. That's a lot of damage coming out from Blank already in this game.
Pilot needs to reposition his Deadly Flourishes just a little bit towards the bottom. Keeps missing on the top side. Just aim towards the bottom and he'll start hitting them. Be great.
PSG, they are in a much better position now than they were 3 or 4 minutes ago. And we've been here before.
Yes, this is exactly what I was about to say, Stress.
We've been here before with PSG. They've got a decent lead. Now they need to continue, edge it forward in a way that they can maintain this lead and not overpush.
If PSG had won every game at which they were ahead at 15 minutes in gold, they would be on 9 points right now, not on the 1 point they're on at the moment. It's a struggle for them, especially getting up towards that 25-minute mark. We highlighted it last week. They tend to have about a 3,000 gold swing at that point, or at least they did at the time. Last week, they equalized that a little bit playing up against Misfits Academy, but it's still not a good sign for them. Hopefully, they have been working on that late game and working out exactly where those decisions are being mismade.
Yeah, and one thing to note, follow up from earlier, that Woolite has now put points in trap. He put 3 points in Q and transitioned over to W. That's how he's got 4 traps out. The next one that'll come through will give him access to that 5th trap. It allows him to now control mid lane. This is why traps are so valuable, because it denies Blank's ability to push much further than he is now. Yes, he can get damage down from afar, but actually stepping forward becomes a little bit more difficult. However, Sprattle's there, Jin's there, everybody steps up, and it's not just the Azir on his own.
It's what we see time and time again from Jins these days. The curtain call isn't always used as an engage tool. It's used as a tool to make the other team think twice about stepping forward.
It's a please step back from your tower, we want to take it.
Please behind the yellow line or the red line of the curve. They're going to look for this red buff as well. No blast cone for them to get away from it. Tabasco is here. Smite comes down, Tabasco will secure it. Would have been a little bit of icing on the cupcake, but at the moment, Woolite has all of those cupcakes under his control.
They do seem very tempting.
Although these are the laser ones that I don't think are as tempting.
They're meant for Yordle, so Sprattle might find himself accidentally
hey, you never know.
Stepping on him.
Is he role-playing? Do you do that when you play League of Legends?
I mean, Ice Beasto is playing the goalkeeper against the football team, so it wouldn't exactly be the most difficult of role-playing at that point, I suppose.
RPG lol. That's exactly what we want to see.
Playing on an old RP server, is that what you're doing?
PSG still 4,000 gold ahead as we approach that 20-minute mark. It's do or die for both these teams as well. Both of them need to get up those ranks in the table. We think about 7 points will be that cut-off. PSG still 6 away. Kinguin only 1-2-0 away from getting there, but they do face up against Fnatic Academy next week, and if they've still got Amazing and Kickers, that is a tough lineup to have to play against.
But I think we just saw in that series that doesn't make it impossible. They... after winning one game, apparently lost their heads and were thinking that, hey, Rengar, that can carry late-game team fights, right? Not the Civic.
I think part of it as well, though, is a little bit of synergy. You know, Kickers has been unwell in the hospital. Amazing hasn't been perhaps playing with the team as much. Tabasco's going to get knocked up here by White Knight. He's trying to get back to his turret, but his turret's a long way away. Anchor with the flash. Spazzled off towards the side. Does have the wild growth. Going to use it if needed. Will try and keep his top laner alive. Tabasco there, splash across by Sprattle, exhaust onto him. Kyrie now joins the fight. D-Lord stunned up, they will get one. Blank decides he doesn't want to get in. Blank trying to shuffle his way away and puts down the wall, says no further rise. Stop right there.
Pilot was out on the top lane pushing through. He's not going to get too much more done other than push this wave up. So Kinguin did have the numbers to some extent, and now Pilot's going to have to back away.
We talked about that lane matchup, though. The Caitlyn Nami should be able to push in that Jhin Lulu. Pilot's still pretty even on CS, even though he was losing in that lane. They did get the tower about 7 minutes ago, so has had some time to catch up a little bit of a deficit.
And a lot of that came from Kinguin trying to make plays earlier on, where they left Woolite on his own, and he was forced to flash out. Remember, D-Lo came in and saved him. Then, kind of the second time that happens again, they both die from it under tower. And this was the next play down on bottom side, where White Knight takes a lot of damage, tries to get away, and the rest of the team are regrouping. You can see just how far away they were trying to get there from, but Kinguin went back to the live action. Ice Beasto, no mana.
There's a red buff slow. He's going to stay with his minions for the time being, but I don't think he can survive against Kyrie. He'll take him out. 5 kills to 1 for PSG.
Topside, Ice Beasto's only clearing a ward. They're going to look for that tower. Pilot's there, and they could actually kill him and dive him here. Pilot, oh, he sends his Tabasco's around.
He's got flash. No, he's got flash and heal. He'll be able to get away to,
you're right.
to Sprattle.
And Sprattle's there.
Although if he hadn't noticed that Tabasco was there, oh, he's going to get slowed up. TP coming in here by White Knight as well. Has the depth charge. Tries to get away with the collateral damage. Sprattle couldn't get the slowdown. Here's Blanc. Is he going to be able to shift the sands on towards the pool party graves? This is not a beach he wants to be on, as Blank takes him out.
PSG turned that one back around. It looked dire for Pilot. I didn't think he would be able to get alive, but you were very right in the way that not only did he have his summoners around, not again. No, Tabasco's not alive. If
this is safer. This is a lot safer.
There should be no way
Sebex is going to join the fight. White Knight is there for the front line. Here's Ice Beasto as well. It's not stolen, but now PSG need to win the fight. Woolite dead. Ice Beasto off towards the top side as well. PSG are going to collapse on the tree, and they'll take him down. 2 kills, a Baron, 8-1 PSG.
Finally, we see a little bit better decision-making out of PSG. They kill the jungler and go right for the Baron. There's been a lot of finalies in this game, and PSG, it's because they're starting to find the form that we have expected from them for weeks. Yeah. It's still not perfect, but it is starting to get there.
There is a gorgeous symmetry between this game and their first game against Schalke 04, because in their first game against Schalke 04, the scoreline was 8-1, and PSG went for a Baron. when they just killed someone. And they lost the Baron here. Here, they go for it, a lot safer. They kill Tabasco, they take the Baron, and they are playing, like, as you say, the PSG we always expected to see in Challenger Series.
Yeah, this is what we expected. And PSG want to close this game out as fast as they possibly can. As Zia turret goes up in the mid lane, you can see the damage go down from afar. Now their composition is difficult to deal with because it's difficult for Kinguin to actually get on top of them with no teleport flank available. PSG have a fair amount of damage here.
How do you step up into a Rylizer Azir with the Nash's Tooth? How do you step up into White Knight with the Titan's Wrath? How do you step up towards Kairi, who can always just jump on your face and sink in the claws? It's a dangerous game that Kinguin begin to play, and PSG are happy just to push them back underneath their turret. However, they do have Caitlyn there to set up that line of traps and try and anti-siege.
But that's only going to work in one lane, and look what Sprattle's picked up. Banner of Command for one of the other lanes. You've got a Maokai, you've got a Ryze, now you've got Baroned up minions, you've got the Bannered up minion. Oh,
Ice Beasto hooks back, the Cursed Call comes down, and there's a triple knock-up with the depth charge. PSG only want the tower for now. Kinguin retreats, Sebex called out. White Knight doesn't land the anchor because Sebex splashes away, but PSG will continue this relentless aggression towards the turrets of Kinguin.
Look, the banner minion is still there. Now they loop over to mid lane. Maybe it's a fake here. They're trying to catch out Woolite. The shifting sands, the conquering everything is available for Blank.
Sands. It's all
Emperor's
sands.
Divide.
Emperor's Divide is what you're thinking of.
It was the divide I was looking for.
But Inhibitor Tower will go down, and PSG put their foot firmly on the accelerator. They're looking for the inhibitor as well. They're 10, 11,000 gold ahead, and they are playing this mid-game incredibly well. Kinguin have no way of answering the aggression from PSG.
This is so much better out of PSG, and this is where it all starts. So this is where I said Pilot was dead, because I wasn't looking at the minimap. And then Sprattle comes over, Pilot gets saved, they turn this around, the teleport comes through, and importantly enough, okay, they know that the Curtain Call itself is never going to kill Tabasco, but the slow applies. White Knight is able to kind of track up through the lane. Blanc goes in for this, and it's an easy kill onto Tabasco. And they instantly turn for the Baron. This is the clean decision-making that we would expect from a team that has put so much focus onto a challenger lineup, investing so much. That decision right there, knowing they could take this, there was no real way of having it stolen away, and Kinguin play right into their hands.
They do, they went for the engage afterwards. Ice Beasto gets taken out eventually, and now we see PSG setting up towards the mid lane once again. Wait, Curtain Call opens up already, a kill onto Woolite, just got melted. Didn't even see that one coming. And
Pretty
now,
sure it was just a W from Jhin mixed with maybe an Azir soldier attack. Whew.
I was looking up to see how the super minions were doing in the top lane because Ice Beasto was pushing them in. Kinguin are going for a flank here. Ice Beasto says not the situation you want to be in.
Well, you haven't got an AD carry, so I don't know really how you're intending to output that much damage in this fight. Okay, you've got Graves, but Ice Beasto TP's in on the flank in order to deep push bot lane while the rest of the team is taking mid. Like, PSG are just getting too much from this.
They're going to get their second inhibitor of the game and go 12,000 gold in the lead. Kinguin's early game was weak. We've said it time and time again. If Tabasco doesn't kick off, they don't seem to have the shot calling and the plays later on really to be able to do too much.
And they picked into this, Medic. They picked into it. Like, they took the Maokai, the Ryze, now they take the fight.
Conquering Sands comes out, the Emperor's Divide as well. Here's the damage onto D-Lord. Sebex, the frontline Spattle, snipes him away, and now they're going to look for the turret as well. White Knight flashes in, Woolite flashes away. PSG 11-1 up.
Caitlyn's only at 2 items. Kinguin have only had 1 kill this entire game. Minions are streaming in. PSG with a convincing win here.
Nexus towers are falling just to the super minions as PSG look to close out the game before even the 30-minute mark. They'll take their 3rd inhibitor and they'll look for the win. The Nexus tower is their target. Now they might have to back away ever so slightly. The flash in by Ice Beasto, he's got onto Pilot. The Wild Growth comes down and White Knight and Blank just take away Woolite. Ice Beasto, because nothing he can do. Although he does kill Kairi, he will fall. The snipes onto D-Lord, he just about flashes onto Fountain. PSG looking for that second Nexus tower, but Sebex is somehow back alive. I think this will be the Nexus as PSG look for only their 2nd win in the European Challenger Series. They will not quite get it yet as Tabasco flashes in. He's exhausted. Blanca's unstoppable, as are PSG. They'll take the Nexus and they'll go 1-0 over Kinguin.
That was so much better out of PSG when it comes to decisions to close the game than we've seen nearly all split long.
Can't lose in the late game if you don't get to late game.
That is very true. But honestly, this wasn't even a game where like PSG crushed in the early game. 0 to 13 minutes, nothing in this game happened. Just laning. Then there was that failed TP play from Kinguin in the mid lane, and that was what PSG just go, okay, we'll make a play on bot side from that then. We'll use our TP advantage, we'll catch you out. And Kinguin just could not keep up as soon as that play had been made.
It's using Kinguin's over-aggression against them as well, because that play was facilitated by Wooler and D-Lord going aggressive on towards Twilight. They stepped forward, they were like, we'll catch him. He only uses heal, and then it's just teleport straight in behind him. Very easy pickup for PSG, but I like it so much more because their communication has seemed to be what was weak for them in the last few weeks. And there were so many plays here and so many calls that just showed that they understand as a team what they want to be doing at any given time.
It just felt like as soon as Tabasco died up in the top lane and the Baron was done, that was PSG winning the game. Like from that point, they were very quick to push in mid, get the tower set up for Azir, move to the top side, get another tower, get the bot tower, push everything in. Even to the point where like Sprattle has a banner of command before he buys anything like Redemption. It was just all about ending this game as fast as possible.
It's incredibly smart though, because if you think about it, you have the Caitlyn counter pushing one lane.
Yep.
If you go to another lane with a bannered up minion, you've only got the Rise there to clear it out.
Can't push it back.
Yeah, can't push it back at all. Well, we'll be getting into game 2 between Team Kinguin and Paris Saint-Germain after this 3.5-minute break. We'll see you then. Twist Divide comes out, Sebek's caught out, and there's the kill for Blanc. Snipes him away. When D-Lord and Woolite caught out, no summoners, knocked up. Woolite the target, the curtain call comes down. D-Lord tags up a couple, and there is the double in the bot lane. PSG react and take out the kills.
No way.
Sebek is going to join the fight. White Knight is there for the front line. Here's Ice Beasto as well. It's not stolen, but now PSG need to win the fight. Woolite dead. Ice Beasto off towards the top side as well. PSG are going to collapse on the tree, and they'll take him down. 2 kills, a Baron, 8-1 PSG.
Now you've got Baroned up minions. You've got the bannered up minion. Oh, Ice Beasto
hooks back. The cursor call comes down, and there's a triple knockup with the depth charge. PSG only want the tower for now. Looking for that second Nexus tower, but Sebex is somehow back alive. I think this will be the Nexus as PSG look for only their second win in the European Challenger Series. They will not quite get it yet as Tabasco flashes in. He's exhausted. Blanca's unstoppable, as are PSG. They'll take the Nexus and they'll go 1-0 over Kinguin.